Now, the diagnosis of a condition that leads to developmental challenges is difficult for any parent.
The cost of the required rehabilitation of such patients adds to the stress.
Now, occupational therapy is costly and rather unavailable, especially to parents who didn't anticipate the problem, which is, of course, usually the case.
But as Charity Mwangi reports on this week's My Job segment, John Nyera's passion for occupational therapy drives him to make home visits that are of great comfort to the families of patients.
On any other given day, John Nyera is up at 4:30 a.m. and by 6 a.m. in the morning, he is already into his first session with his first client of the day. This is his third session. The time is 10 a.m. He understands the importance of his job, especially to parents who entrust their most prized possession, their babies, to him.
Now, when I find a parent is in a panic mode, mostly it's all about you share out with various examples to encourage them.
John begins his job by stimulating his clients' muscles, depending on the challenges that necessitated them to seek his services.
Of patients are such as CVA patients, which in other words can say stroke, the spectrum cases such as autism. Then other cases we have got jaundice, others are cerebral palsy. Meningeal patients, most will find they do regress in their milestone. It is something that affects the brain. The bipolar cases, the schizophrenia cases, those are examples of the psychiatric cases you see. I will now try to maintain the joint ranges of motion. That is ensuring that there is full flexion, extension of the elbow, the shoulder joints, the hip joint, the knee joint, up to the ankle joint.
This part of the session, according to John, can be done even by a physiotherapist. But then once the baby's clothes are put back on, his main task begins. It is uncomfortable to watch, but John tells us all the motions and exercises are well calculated and expertly executed to the benefit of the patient.
13. 1 month, let me work on eye contact, eye tracking skills, toys. 2 months, let me work on head control. Rolling the eyes at 6 months, let's go to sitting and onwards until it reaches a point this child is independent to run outside, play like other children.
John laments the stigma that at times forces parents to hide their children or present certain conditions. He says help is available.
In African setups, you'll find most people say, okay, tutafanya hivi na hivi, mtoto arudi, akuwe sawa. Ama, hiyo wacha tu, atacheza atakuwa sawa. Then it reaches a point they find, okay, it's kind of a disability. They find so many cases of autistic people turning out to be very big people in the society, coming up with something very creative.
The cost of John's services is relatively high on account of the unavailability of the service.
If now that you have come into an agreement with a parent or somebody on how much you're going to charge them for a session, then the parent also has to understand that this is not a one-day thing.
John encourages those with the training not to wait for employment, but instead use the skills they have to create a livelihood for themselves. He started doing home visits upon the recommendation of doctors who believed in his skills and passion.
Try find somebody who is maybe of an experience with maybe a license, lean on that person to help you get the referrals. At a later time, you acquire your own license, then now develop yourself from there.
The parents are appreciative of the convenience of having John attend to their children at home.
From day one, I've noticed the difference because at first he was not the way he is right now.
John will traverse the city from one estate to another in order to get to his patients. He sees up to 7 patients every day. His is indeed a calling. Charity Mwangi, NTV.